Happy Father's Day, everyone. As Father's Day was approaching this year, I was thinking of my dear dad, who is no longer with us, and thinking of the exchanges that he and I had over the topic of music. Now, this is called Music Lessons from Dad. He never actually gave me a lesson. He wasn't a trained musician, but he loved to sing. He sang with the church choir, First Presbyterian Church of Maple Plain, and he got a lot of the big solos. He tremendously enjoyed singing. And when we would be singing hymns in that little sanctuary, I would be standing right next to my dad, and his voice really filled the place. I remember one day, and I was young enough for this to be the kind of thoughts that a kid has. So I was 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever. We were singing one of the hymns, and the whole church was singing the melody of the hymn, which, of course, to me was the hymn. And my dad was singing something else. And I had never really noticed this before. And we kept singing, and he kept always singing something different. And I looked at him in the middle of this hymn and I said, "Are you making that up?" And he said, "I'll tell you how it works when we get home." So we got home and he pulled out a hymnal and he showed me, now this is the part up here that you and the rest of the people are singing. And this is the part down here that I'm singing. And he called it the tenor line. And it was the first time I intellectually wrestled with the idea of harmony. Like I say, he was a part of the church choir, a very tiny little choir. In my mind, I'm thinking I see about 7 or 8 choir members. And up in front of them was this lady, and she was doing this. And she wasn't singing. And I thought, what the heck is she doing? She's not making music. And I would puzzle about this and puzzle about it. And then I remembered, now I was once again young enough for this to make sense in my mind. I knew that the musical alphabet used letter names A, B, C, D. I knew that. And I thought, well, maybe if she wants them to sing a C, she goes like that and they sing a C. And if she wants them to sing an A, she does that and they sing an A. And I thought, okay, that's probably it. That's probably it. A number of years later, when I was taking piano lessons and taking drum lessons and getting deep into music, my dad, who was the village engineer for the village of Orono, Minnesota, and he had laid out a lot of the streets that we rode our bikes on as kids. And he wasn't a wealthy man, but he did fine. He did just fine. We were never lacking for anything that we needed. And he was talking careers with me one day, and he said, you know, Kev, if you really want to make a successful life for yourself, you might want to go into something other than music as a career. And I said, Elton John's a millionaire. And Dad said, he's a freak. That's not going to last. Someone better tell Sir Elton to tuck a little bit of that away. It's going to be rainy days a-coming. Oh well, Dad wasn't always right. Sometime in my teenage years, I asked my dad, "Dad, what did you think of the Beatles?" And he, first of all, acknowledged that they were brilliant songwriters. I didn't expect that at all, because as far as I could tell, my dad couldn't care less about pop music. He said that, but then he said, "But I think what they did to this country was just awful." I thought, wow, what a difference this generational gap makes. I didn't ask him to explain, but my dad was nobody's hippie, okay? So I'm quite sure I knew what he was talking about. Another time, I was sitting in the kitchen and he walked up to me. And he said, "Do you know why the Beatles spell their name with a B-E-A-T? He said, "Because every one of their tunes has the same beat." And he did this little thing. And I went, Norwegian Wood is in 6/8. Within You and Without You goes into 5/4. Dad just walked away. I was studying piano from the age of 7, studied drums from the age of 8. I went through the Anthony Cerrone Portraits in Rhythm book as a young drummer. I'm quite sure I got through that book by about my junior year in high school. It's a pretty heavy lift. It's pretty intense music. One day I had it out for some reason. My dad looked at it and he said, "You must be really smart." And I went, "My dad thinks I'm smart. My dad thinks I'm smart." That kind of little emotional pat on the back that sticks with you for life. That was one of those. As my dad reached the end of his days on earth, certain stories would come around again and again and again. And one of the stories that he loved to tell the most was from when he was an undergrad at the University of Minnesota studying civil engineering. And he needed an elective credit and he took the choir. And the choir from the university did a concert with what was in those days the Minneapolis Symphony Orchestra, the Minnesota Orchestra, as we now know it. And they did Beethoven's Ninth, and Dad sang with that big old choir and that big old professional orchestra. And they got to the end of Beethoven's Ninth, and the members of the orchestra would pat their feet and kind of rub their feet on the floor, and that's the way they would show their applause for the choir. And one of the violinists locked eyes with my father while he was doing his little foot applause thing, and Dad just took it as this tremendous affirmation. It's, like I say, one of his favorite stories, and I always enjoyed hearing it. I did a little research to find out who the conductor would have been at that time, and it was Dimitri Mitropoulos. No slouch, right? Before my dad did pass, he requested that I play at his memorial service a song. And he wanted me to play it on guitar. And he wanted me at the end of the song to ask everyone in the gathering to say, "Yeah," at the end of the song. I did it. And frankly, it wasn't a strong performance. I came away from that thinking, man, I did not give Dad my best on this day. I tried, but it didn't happen that day. So I'm going to do it again right now. And I'm going to pretend that you are the people in the gathering, and I'm going to have you say, "Yeah." Now this is how it's going to work. I'm going to say, "Here we go. Yeah." Okay? And you will do that you'll feel when it's coming. But if you're into music notation, I will put the word "go" on beat 1 and the word "yeah" on beat 3. And he requested that we all put our hand up and say "yeah," like this, a fist in the air, "yeah." This is how it'll work. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we go. Yeah. If you would do that with me, Dad would be pleased. Once again, happy Father's Day to you all. Let's play that tune. I'm climbing up the mountain, children, gotta reach my heavenly home. Climbing up and working harder, Lord, don't ever leave me alone. Don't you see I'm trying to make it each day, even though trials pass my way. I'm gonna keep climbing up the mountain till I make it on home. Oh brother, won't you help me? The road is rough, the mountain is steep, and the going gets tough. But when I see him face to face, I'm gonna shout all over the place. Climbing up the mountain, children, gotta reach my heavenly home. Climbing up and working harder, Lord, don't ever leave me alone. Don't you see I'm trying to make it each day, even though trials come my way. I've gotta keep climbing up the mountain till I make it on home. Oh sister, won't you help me carry the load over the hard and rocky road? When I get there, he'll wipe my tears away. It's gonna be a happy day, happy day. Walking up the mountain, children, gotta reach my heavenly home. Climbing up and working harder, Lord, don't ever leave me alone. you see, I'm trying to make it each day. Even though trials come my way, I gotta keep climbing up the mountain till I make it on home. Keep climbing, climbing up the mountain. Gotta keep climbing up the mountain till I make it a home. Gotta keep on climbing up the mountain till I make